Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English with Taleverse. I'm Leo, and I'm so happy you're here today. This video is made especially for people who want to improve their English skills, whether you are a beginner or at an intermediate level. Today, I have a very special story for you. It is full of hope, courage, and inspiration. This is the story of Laura, a young girl who faced many challenges growing up in a small village. She never gave up, even when life was really hard, and she never accepted failure as the end of the road. If you've ever thought that a failure means the end of your journey, this story will give you new energy and motivation. As you listen, try to pay attention to new words. Write them down and notice how they are used in sentences. And repeat them out loud. You can also pause the video anytime to practice speaking or check a word you don't know. Listening, repeating, and practicing while enjoying the story is one of the best ways to improve your English speaking and listening skills. So, get comfortable, open your heart and mind, and enjoy the story. Let's start the journey with Laura, a story about courage, hope, determination, and never giving up.
Chapter 1. A Simple Life in a Small Village. In the hills and rice fields, there lived a 15-year-old girl named Laura. Her family's house was small and poor, built with wooden walls and a roof that often leaked when it rained. Still, the warmest thing inside was not comfort or money, but the love between family members. Laura's family had 5 people: her father, her mother, an older brother who sometimes worked in the town, Laura herself, and a little baby sister who always followed her around. Her father worked as a daily laborer on building sites near the village. Her mother sold homemade food at the local market to earn some money. But their income was never enough. Some months they had barely enough to buy what they needed, and sometimes they had to live with very little. Every morning, Laura woke up early to help her mother with housework. She washed dishes, cleaned rice, and looked after her little sister. Taking care of the little one was also her job, playing with her, telling simple stories, and keeping her safe while their mother was busy. After that, she still needed to finish her schoolwork, and sometimes she went to the market to help her mother. Each day, Laura walked to school in her old shoes and worn-out clothes. The road was long, and when it rained, the mud made it hard to reach the classroom. But she almost never missed a day. The school was simple, and the teachers were kind, yet there were not enough books. Sometimes she had to search through old pages just to find the information she needed. Laura loved science and the human body. She dreamed of becoming a doctor one day, a doctor who could help the sick in her village, especially women and children. This dream felt very big, but very real. Whenever she had free time, she read about the body, asked questions, and studied with curiosity. At night, the family had no steady electricity. Most evenings, Laura had to study by candlelight. The small flame flickered, but for her, it was the light of hope. She owned one notebook with wrinkled pages from humidity. In it, she wrote new words, difficult spellings, and simple drawings of the human body. To her, that notebook was a treasure. But life was not only about studying. After school, Laura washed her sister's clothes, cooked rice, and sometimes looked after the baby when her mother came home late from the market. These tasks took much of her time, yet she never gave up on her goal. She believed that hard times could build stronger hearts. Being a teenager was not easy. Laura felt tired many days, and her classmates sometimes laughed at her old clothes or broken shoes. But she had learned not to let their words put out her inner light. She often whispered to herself, "If I try now, tomorrow I can heal someone." With every passing day, her vision of the future grew clearer. She imagined herself in a white doctor's coat, holding the hand of an old patient, and seeing her mother's smile when she realized her daughter had achieved her dream. But Laura also knew the road was long. A very important exam was coming, and her resources were few. She understood that to reach her dream, she must work harder than others, not for pride, but for the people who had no access to a doctor in her village. And so, Chapter 1 ends here. With her daily struggles, her sense of duty, and the ocean of hope inside the heart of a 15-year-old girl. In the next chapter, we will see how Laura prepares for an important exam, what obstacles stand in her way, and how failure and opportunity both appear in her journey.
Chapter 2: The Decisive Exam. Months passed, and hot and rainy days came one after another. At school, the teachers kept talking about the big final exam, an exam that could decide the future of many students. For Laura, it was more than just a test. It was the key to her dream. She knew that if she could get a high score, maybe she would win a scholarship or some help for her studies. But life at home was getting heavier every day. Her mother came back from the market tired, and many responsibilities fell on Laura's shoulders. She had to take care of her baby sister, cook meals, and keep the house clean. Often when night arrived, she was already exhausted. Still, she told herself, "Even if I sleep less, I must study." Many nights she sat with her small candle. The weak flame shone on her tired face, and shadows danced on the wooden walls. She rubbed her eyes to stay awake, but her mind was full of formulas and scientific words. Sometimes her older brother brought old second-hand books from the town, but most of them were torn or missing pages. Even so, she read them with excitement. She had learned that even one single page could teach her something. As the exam day grew closer, her anxiety grew as well. Lack of sleep, housework, and the baby's cries all made her nervous. On the last night before the exam, her candle went out halfway, and she fell asleep with her head on her notebook. On the morning of the exam, Laura walked to school with a heart full of both fear and hope. The classroom was filled with classmates, some with new, colorful books. She only had her old notebook. When the exam paper came to her desk, the questions blurred before her eyes. Her brain was tired, and she forgot many things she had studied. Even though she had worked hard, Laura failed the important test. Her score was much lower than she expected. When the results were announced, tears filled her eyes. The way home felt longer than ever, and each step carried the weight of disappointment. At home, her mother hugged her and whispered, "My daughter, this is not the end. You still have time." But inside Laura, there was a storm. She did not know if she should keep chasing her dream of becoming a doctor or simply give up. Weeks passed. Laura spoke less and often sat in silence. But just when she was about to lose hope, something unexpected happened. A doctor from the city came to the village to treat patients. He not only helped the sick, but also listened to the children's stories. When he heard about Laura's dream of becoming a doctor, he looked at her deeply, with respect in his eyes. He told her, "Failure is a step, not a wall.
I also faced hardships when I was young. What matters is that you stand up again." Then he promised to send her some science books to study. Those words lit a new flame inside Laura's heart. Slowly, her life began to move from sadness to hope again. Chapter 3. A New Flame in Laura's Heart. After meeting the city doctor, a new light was born inside Laura. A few weeks later, the books he had promised finally arrived in the village. It was only a small package, but full of hope. When her mother brought it home from the market, Laura's eyes shone with excitement. The covers were old and the pages yellow, but for her, they were as valuable as gold. That very night, Laura opened the books one by one. The science chapters about the heart, the lungs, and the digestive system felt like a journey into a new world. She read every word carefully, took notes, and if she did not understand something, she read it again and again. Sometimes her older brother helped her translate difficult English words. As the days passed, Laura changed. She was no longer silent or sad. She woke up with energy, finished her housework, and used every free moment to study. Even when her baby sister wanted to play, Laura placed her on her lap while reading. The child laughed, and Laura smiled too. These moments made the hardships easier to carry. Her teachers noticed the change. One day, a teacher said, "Laura, you have improved so much. Your hard work is admirable." Those words gave her new strength. Even her classmates, who once laughed at her old shoes, now looked at her with respect. Still, the path was not easy. Many nights the electricity failed, and she studied by candle or oil lamp. The smoke burned her eyes and made her cough. Her hands, rough and cut from housework, still turned the pages of her books. She had learned that pain and effort were part of the road to dreams. A few months later, a new opportunity appeared. The school announced a small science competition. The topic was about the human body and health. At first, Laura hesitated. The memory of her failure in the big exam was still fresh. But when she remembered the city doctor's words, she decided to be brave and take part. She practiced for days and nights. She read aloud to build her confidence. Sometimes her mother listened with a smile, even if she did not understand every word. Her brother sat with her and helped with the English texts. Their small home became filled with the sounds of hope and effort. On the day of the competition, Laura stood in front of the class to explain the human heart. Her voice trembled at first, but then she remembered all the nights she had studied. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke about blood, the heartbeat, and the importance of health. Everyone listened carefully. When the competition ended, the teachers clapped for her. She did not win first place, but their praise and encouragement meant more than any prize. Laura realized that her past failure did not define her future. She had found a new path. And so, Chapter 3 ends here, with Laura rising again, turning her sadness into strength, and carrying a new flame in her heart. But this was only the beginning. Many more tests and opportunities were waiting for her. Chapter 4. Facing New Challenges. After the science competition, Laura gained more confidence. Even though she did not win first place, the teachers' praise and the respectful looks from her classmates gave her new wings. Now she truly believed she could rise again after failures. But life in the village was never without problems. Each day brought new struggles. One time, her father hurt his hand while doing heavy construction work, and for weeks he could not earn money. This made the family's financial situation even harder. Her mother had to spend longer hours in the market, and Laura had to take more responsibility at home and look after her baby sister. There were nights when she sat by the cradle, exhausted, while the candle burned softly. The baby slept, and Laura opened her notebook with heavy eyes. Sometimes tears of tiredness fell onto the pages. She whispered to herself, "Why is life so hard? What did I do to deserve this?" But then she remembered her dream and said, "No, this is my path. I must keep going." Her teachers, who had seen her talent, suggested she join a training workshop in the city. It was the first time such an opportunity appeared for her. But the cost of travel and materials was too much. At night, she spoke with her mother, worried she might not be able to go. Finally, her older brother, who worked in the city, decided to save part of his wages to pay for her trip. When she heard this, her heart trembled with joy. For her, this workshop was like a door opening toward the future. On the day she traveled to the city, Laura's heart was filled with both excitement and fear. The city amazed her. Crowded streets, tall buildings, and people moving quickly everywhere. Having lived most of her life in the quiet village, she felt as if she had stepped into another world. In the workshop, students from different schools gathered. Some wore neat clothes and carried new supplies, while Laura stood quietly in her simple dress. At first, she felt shy, but when it was her turn to speak on a science topic, she shared her thoughts with honesty and passion, using what she had learned from her books. Her words were clear and full of energy, and several teachers looked at her with admiration. At the end of the workshop, one of the city professors called her over and said, "My daughter, you have great talent. Keep going. Do not give up. A bright future is waiting for you." Those words felt like a seal of approval for all the hardships she had endured. Chapter 4 ends here, where Laura, for the first time, experiences a bigger world and becomes more certain in her heart that her dream is not unreachable. Chapter 5. A Storm in a Quiet Heart. Months passed, and Laura continued studying with hope and effort. The city workshop had opened a new door for her and gave her more motivation, but the pressures and struggles at home had not gone away. Her father still could not return fully to work, and her mother grew tired every day. Sometimes, late at night, Laura saw her mother sitting silently by the oil lamp, massaging her cracked hands. Laura's heart ached, but she stayed quiet. She knew that if she showed weakness, her family would only worry more. Meanwhile, an important exam was approaching, one that could shape her future in education. Laura had been preparing for months. The doctor's books, her notebooks full of notes, and the long nights of study had left a deep mark on her. But just when she needed the most focus, problems at home grew heavier. Her baby sister fell ill with a high fever. Since her mother had to spend long hours in the market, Laura stayed awake at night beside the cradle, placing wet cloths on the child's forehead and praying for the fever to fall. She felt torn between two duties, caring for her sister or preparing for the exam. On the night before the exam, she was so tired that she could hardly review a few pages. Yet when she closed her notebook, she whispered to herself, "I will not give up. Even if it is hard, I must keep trying." On exam day, she woke up early, as always. Wearing her simple scarf and old shoes, she walked to school with a fast-beating heart. At first, the questions on the paper seemed easy, but soon her mind grew heavy, her thoughts scattered, and the exhaustion of the past days returned. She gave all the effort she had, but deep inside, she knew she had not shown her best. When she left the classroom, the sky was cloudy and a cold wind blew through the streets. Inside her, it felt like a storm was raging. A few days later, the results were announced. Laura's score was not bad, but it was not high enough for a scholarship or support. Her lips trembled, and tears filled her eyes. But this time it was different. Unlike her first failure, she no longer saw herself as completely defeated. She had learned that every fall could become the beginning of rising again. When her mother heard the news, she hugged her and said, "My daughter, you have worked so hard. That alone has value." Her brother smiled and added, "The road is still long. You're only at the beginning." Though her heart was heavy, deep inside Laura heard voices. The city doctor's voice, the workshop teacher's encouragement, and even her own voice saying, "Don't give up." And so, Chapter 5 ends here, with Laura standing in the middle of the storm, learning how to hold on to hope and turn her eyes once again toward the future. Chapter 6: Sparks of Hope in the Darkness. After the exam and the result that disappointed her, Laura's days grew quiet. She spent most of her time in their small room, turning the pages of her books, but her mind felt heavy. Sometimes she told herself, "Maybe I will never become a doctor. Maybe this dream is not for me." These thoughts fell on her heart like dark shadows. But life always finds a way to awaken hope. One day, when her mother returned from the market, she brought fresh news. The city doctor who had visited the village before was coming back to treat the sick. When Laura heard this, her heart brightened. She felt there was someone out there who truly believed in her. A few days later, the doctor arrived. Villagers gathered around him from every direction. Laura gathered her courage and went to see him. When the doctor saw the worry in her eyes, he smiled and said, "Laura, I heard about your exam, but don't worry. Failures are not the end of the road. I believe in you." Then he handed her another package of books, this time a little more advanced. Laura took them with trembling hands, as if she had found a treasure. That very night, her life lit up again. She realized she could not live in the past anymore. Every page she read was like a ray of light breaking through her darkness. Even her mother, when she saw her studying late at night by the oil lamp, no longer scolded her. Instead, she sat quietly beside her and whispered, "My daughter, you are different. Keep going." Meanwhile, a new opportunity was announced at school, an essay competition on the topic, "How to Build a Healthier and More Hopeful Village." Laura felt that this time the subject spoke directly to her heart. She had lived through the struggles of the village with her own flesh and blood. At night, she sat by her baby sister's cradle. After putting the child to sleep, she opened her notebook and began to write. She wrote about the lack of medicine, the mud brick houses, the mothers who worked endlessly, and the children, like herself, who studied by candlelight. But at the end of her essay, she wrote about hope, hope that could burn even in the deepest darkness. A few weeks later, the results were announced. To her own surprise, Laura won first place. For the first time, her name was read aloud in front of all the students. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. And so Chapter 6 ends here, where Laura, from within the shadows, discovers sparks of hope, and realizes that her voice too can be heard. Chapter 7. New Bridges Toward the Future. After winning the essay competition, Laura's name was heard for the first time among teachers and students as an example of perseverance and hope. This event blew like a fresh breeze into her life. She realized that her voice could be heard, even if her house was small and her shoes were old. The school, wanting to honor her, decided to post her essay on the bulletin board so everyone could read it. When Laura arrived at school the next morning and saw her writing pinned on the wall, she felt something strange inside. Some classmates who used to laugh at her now looked at her with admiration. One of them even whispered, "You're really brave, Laura." This change in the way people saw her gave her great encouragement. But deep inside, she knew the real journey had only just begun. She still needed to study, to work hard, and to prepare for even greater tests. A few weeks later, a letter arrived at the school from the Regional Education Office. It announced that several talented students could take part in a special educational program in the city. Laura's name was among them. When the teacher read the news, Laura felt her heart leap with joy. But her happiness soon mixed with worry. The cost of travel and staying in the city was not something her family could easily afford. That night, when she told her mother sighed and said, "My daughter, you deserve this chance, but we don't have much money." Laura lowered her head. But her older brother, who overheard the conversation, said, "I will work more. Even if it's hard, I won't let your dream fade away." His words brought tears to Laura's eyes. She understood that her family, despite their poverty, was willing to give everything they had for her future. On the day of departure, the bus was filled with talented students. Laura sat by the window watching the dusty roads disappear behind her. She felt as if every kilometer was a bridge, bringing her closer to a brighter future. When they reached the city, the program began with well-equipped classrooms and expert teachers. At first, Laura was shocked by the advanced laboratory tools. Though she felt a little shy when she finally touched the instruments and gained hands-on experience, a new flame lit inside her heart. "I can do this. I really can." And so Chapter 7 ends here, where Laura, for the first time, tastes the world beyond her village and begins to walk across the bridges that bring her closer to her dream. Chapter 8. A Test Greater Than Books. Laura's days in the city program felt like stepping into a new world. Every day she learned something new, from using a microscope to performing scientific experiments. The teachers often praised her because, even though she had grown up without resources, she worked with incredible focus and determination. But along with these sweet experiences came new challenges. Some of the city students, dressed in neat clothes and carrying modern tools, looked down on Laura. One of them even mocked her one day. "You came from a village. Do you really think you can be like us?" Laura's heart hurt, but she stayed silent. Inside, she told herself, "Maybe my shoes are old, but my dream is alive and new." She decided not to answer with words, but with effort. At night, in the small dormitory, while others went to sleep early, she stayed awake, reviewing her notes. Even when the lights were turned off, she studied under the dim glow of her brother's old phone. One day, the science teacher announced that at the end of the program, there would be a very difficult exam. An exam that could decide who was worthy of a special scholarship. This news shook Laura's heart. She knew well that this opportunity could change her future. From that moment, her effort doubled. She reviewed every difficult question in the book again and again until she understood it fully. Sometimes she asked the teachers for help, and other times she debated scientific problems with classmates who once ignored her. Slowly, those same students realized that Laura's knowledge and determination were far greater than her simple appearance. On the night before the exam, Laura studied late into the night. But unlike before, she was no longer alone. A few of her new friends sat with her, practicing together. One of them said, "Laura, you give us motivation. Whenever we see how you keep going despite all your struggles, we feel ashamed of our excuses." These words warmed Laura's heart. On the day of the exam, when the paper was placed in front of her, her hands trembled a little. But this time was different. She told herself, "I have fallen many times, but I always stood up again. This time will be no different." Hours passed, and Laura answered the questions with strong focus. When she finally walked out of the room, she took a deep breath. For the first time, she felt that she had fought not only for her family or her teachers, but also for herself, and she had won, no matter what the results would show. And so, Chapter 8 ends here, where Laura, with a heart full of hope and fresh determination, faces the greatest test of her life so far. Chapter 9. News that Changes Destiny. A few weeks after the big exam, Laura lived through days full of waiting. Every time she remembered the test, her heart beat faster. Again and again she replayed the questions and her answers in her mind. At night before sleeping, she whispered to herself, "Was it enough? Can I really find a place among all these top students?" During those anxious days, her thoughts often returned to her family. When she went back to the village for the weekend, her mother saw the tiredness in her face and said, "My daughter, whatever the result, you are the best for us." Her older brother tried to lighten her heart with jokes and laughter. Finally, the day of the results arrived. The school hall in the city was filled with students, all staring anxiously at the big board. Laura stood among them, her hands sweaty, her breath heavy in her chest. When the names were read one by one, at first she couldn't believe it. But then, when she heard her own name among the scholarship winners, her legs almost gave way. Tears filled her eyes. In that moment, it felt as if all the nights of studying by candlelight, all the tears and exhaustion, had turned into a bright light guiding her future. The teachers congratulated her with warm smiles. Some of the very students who once mocked her now shook her hand with respect. But for Laura, the most important thing was seeing the proud look in her mother's eyes and the smile full of tears on her brother's face. That night, when she returned to the village, her whole family gathered around her. Her mother said, "Laura, today you proved that even from the heart of poverty, a dream can rise tall." Her brother laughed and added, "I always knew my sister was nothing less than a star." Later that night, Laura looked up at the starry sky and whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning. I still have a long road ahead, but now I am sure I can keep going." And so Chapter 9 ends here, where fresh news changes Laura's life forever and plants an even greater hope in her heart. Chapter 10. Returning with a Purpose. Laura, the Village Doctor. Years passed, and Laura finally became a doctor after many long nights of studying and hard work. But she never forgot her small village or her family. She knew her true goal went beyond her own life, to help those who had grown up in difficult conditions like she had, and to bring hope into their hearts. When she returned to her village, her mind and heart were full of ideas and determination. She wanted not only to inspire children, but also to make a real difference in people's health. Seeing the lack of medical care and the absence of a clinic, she decided to build a small health center. The task was not easy. She knew that neither the government would provide funds easily, nor the poor villagers could contribute much money. But Laura did not give up. She told the villagers with a smile, "Everyone can help, even in a small way. Together, we can make our village healthier." Despite their poverty, the villagers trusted Laura with all their hearts. Some could give a little money, some brought small tools and materials, and others volunteered time to prepare the land and help with construction. Laura also contacted government officials and wrote letters securing some funds for medical equipment. Days and months passed. Every morning, before going to the clinic, Laura checked on her family. She played with her little sister, helped her mother with house chores, and supported her older brother in daily tasks. Then she spent hours at the clinic, seeing patients and applying all her knowledge with care. Finally, after much effort, the small but well-equipped clinic was ready. On the opening day, all the villagers gathered. Even those who had given only a few coins stood proudly beside Laura. She smiled, tears in her eyes, and said, "This clinic is for you, for your health, and for the hope that shines in your hearts." The clinic not only helped the villagers, but also inspired a new generation of children. They saw that through effort and self-belief, even from poverty and difficulty, great things could be achieved. Laura was now the village doctor, but her true success was not in her degree or recognition. It was in the hope and healthier lives she had brought to her people. And one quiet night, as Laura sat outside the clinic looking at the stars, she smiled. She knew that real success comes in moments when you can change others' lives and light the spark of hope in their hearts. Chapter 11. Inspiring and Expanding Help in the Village. A few months after opening the clinic, Laura realized that her work was not just about treating patients. She also wanted to inspire the children and teenagers in the village. Every day, while seeing patients, she found moments to talk to the kids, encourage them, and show them that with effort and hope, they could reach their dreams. She decided to organize small educational classes and study groups in the clinic as well. Every evening, after finishing her patient visits, the children would gather under the candlelight, and Laura would tell them stories about life and success. The children listened carefully and asked questions. They wanted to know how to overcome difficult situations and succeed. With patience and love, Laura not only taught them academic lessons, but also taught them confidence and the value of hard work. She always said, "Nothing is impossible, even if life is hard. You just need to believe in yourself and keep trying." At the same time, Laura noticed that the children were not only interested in medical lessons and classes, but were also curious about her life story. So one evening, after seeing her patients, she decided to share her own story with them. With a gentle and kind voice, she began, "When I was as small as you are, life was very hard for me. My family was poor. I had to help my mother, take care of my little sister, and always study, even when I was tired. There were many days I thought I couldn't go on." The children listened closely. Some had tears in their eyes, and some held their breath. Laura continued, "But I learned that failure is not the end of the road. Every time I fell, I got up. Every time I felt hopeless, I tried again. And today, I am here with you because I never gave up." When Laura finished her story, a heavy silence filled the room. Then suddenly, the children began to clap. Some cried, some smiled, and everyone felt a spark of hope light up in their hearts. They realized that even in the hardest times, with effort and faith in themselves, they could reach their dreams. Over time, Laura became a symbol of hope and a role model in the village. People were proud of her, and the children always tried to follow her example. Laura's success was not limited to treating patients. She expanded educational programs, started public health projects, and even, with the help of the villagers and the government, built a proper school building a few years later, so that all the children could study in better conditions. Laura continued to visit the clinic and the school with enthusiasm, treating patients and encouraging the children. She showed everyone that true success is not only about material gains, but about making a positive difference in others' lives, inspiring them, and lifting the community. And on quiet nights, when Laura sat near the school or the clinic, looking at the stars, she smiled. She knew that the journey of success never ends, and every step taken with effort and hope lights a flame of hope in the hearts of others. The lessons and inspiration of Laura's story. Laura, the girl from a small village who once struggled with poverty, family challenges, and a difficult path to education, has now become a symbol of hope and determination. She showed that real success is not measured by wealth or power, nor by fame, but by believing in yourself, working hard, and committing to help others. From Laura's life, we learn that no failure is the end of the road. Every time we fall, we have another chance to stand up and try again. Effort and hope build the path to success. Even in the hardest situations, if we move forward with willpower and motivation, we can reach our dreams. Success is truly meaningful when we lift others. Serving the community, inspiring the next generation, and helping others is the most valuable achievement. Every time Laura stood beside the clinic or the school, she knew that every step taken with love and hope lights a spark of motivation and joy in the hearts of others. And this is the lasting lesson from her story. Success is a journey that gains meaning through perseverance, courage, and service to others. So anyone who reads or listens to this story can take inspiration from Laura. Believe in yourself, keep working hard, and never forget that every step you take to grow and help others can change the world.
Thank you so much for watching and listening today. I hope you enjoyed Laura's story and that it helped you practice your English in a fun and meaningful way. Remember, learning a language takes time, patience, and practice. Every word you read, every sentence you listen to, and every time you repeat the story brings you one step closer to your goal. Don't be afraid to listen again, speak along, or even retell the story in your own words. It really helps you remember new words and improve your pronunciation. You can also try writing your own sentences about Laura's journey or sharing your thoughts with friends. Every small effort counts, and little steps every day can lead to big improvements. Learning English might be challenging at times, but it's also exciting and rewarding. Stories like Laura's don't just teach English, they inspire us. They show that with courage, hope, and hard work, we can overcome difficulties and make a difference in our lives and in the lives of others. Keep believing in yourself, stay motivated, and never give up. If you enjoyed this story and want to continue learning, I have many more videos full of interesting stories and useful English lessons. Be sure to explore them and keep practicing. Your dedication will pay off. Thank you again for spending time with me today. I'm proud of you for choosing to learn and grow. Keep practicing, stay inspired, and always remember, every small effort you make today is building a better tomorrow. See you in the next story. Keep learning and keep shining.